Before we get into today's video, I do want to let you guys know that this video is for educational purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance in hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. I hope you all have had a wonderful week. Hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody's getting ready to get bundled up. Maybe go to a fall festival. Check your surrounding areas. See what's free out there, what you could do. Maybe go to a park, get outside, something. Yeah? Okay. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about a case that has been requested quite a few times over the years. And this case, I feel it's an emotional case because I can put myself in the parent's shoes. I can put myself in a troubled teen's shoes, living that life. And it's just all over the place. So I'm going to tell this story the best of my ability with the public information that is already out there. I'm not a professional. Do your own research, form your own opinions. And then at the end, I'm going to give you guys my opinion, where I think things went wrong, where the blame is pointed, all of that stuff. Before we go any further, I did want to stop and thank today's sponsor, Upside. You guys, we are at the end of 2023 and everything is still inflated. Okay, gas, groceries, going out to eat, the prices are sky high. But my little hack that I love to use is the Upside app, because every time I go and buy gas or I go to certain stores or certain restaurants, I get to earn cash back. It comes right to my Upside app, and then from there I can transfer it to however I want. I can transfer it to PayPal or to my bank account or an e-gift card. My personal favorite is Starbucks, so I can get my free coffee, and it's so easy to use. All you got to do is download the free Upside app. Then when you open the app, it's going to show you all of these places around where you can earn cash back. I mean, restaurants, gas stations, like right here, I can earn 15 cents back per gallon just for getting gas, which I've already got to do anyway, so I might as well earn cash back. If you're not a coffee drinker and a hot chocolate drinker like me, there's so many different places you can transfer your money to. If you want to try Upside, all you got to do is download the Upside app, use my promo code Christina Randall, and you can get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. Yes, just download the Upside app, use my promo code, and you can start earning cash back today. Thanks again, Upside. So let's just start at the beginning. Kipling Philip Kinkle was born on August 30th, 1982 in Springfield, Oregon. He was the second child to his parents, William and Faith Kinkle, and their first child was a daughter who they named Kristen. William Philip Kinkle was born in 1938 in Twin Falls, Idaho. After graduating college, he went on to earn his master's degree and then began teaching Spanish in 1961. He had a love for the language and actually would go on to teach Spanish like over 30 years. It was in the 1960s when William was on a business trip to Cleveland where he met Faith. Now, Faith was actually teaching languages as well. She was teaching French as well as Spanish. So you can only imagine, like, William, it's back in the 1960s, like he just graduated with his master's degree in Spanish and he's off to go teach Spanish. He started off teaching at a middle school actually. And then he goes on this business trip and he meets Faith, who is teaching Spanish and French as well. And so like they're like these two little language experts, like speaking to each other in different languages, and they find out that they have a lot in common and they just clicked automatically. Now, William was described as like kind of like the life of the party type of guy. Everybody said he had a really great laugh. He had a big smile. He had a zest for life. He loved to do anything that was outdoors. He played tennis. He rode bikes. He was just that type of guy. Faith was described as a people person, but more of like a people pleaser. She would do anything for anybody. She would always put others' needs always before her own. And she just said it straight up. Like, listen, I'm a people pleaser. It's just who I am. So the two instantly clicked and they fell head over heels in love. And William was able to convince Faith to move back to where he was, and they eventually got married. Both of them, while teaching school, were known by their students and other people that they worked with as very encouraging teachers. They tried to make Spanish classes fun, and they would both give up their personal time in order to provide extra help to the students that needed it. They loved kids, and that was one of the reasons some people say that made them awesome parents. Kristen, their oldest child, would later say that the two of them did not just love life, they pursued it with gusto. And although they were these fun, progressive, very understanding, seemingly calm teacher parents, they were older parents. And Faith was actually 42 years old when she gave birth to Kip, her youngest child. So just to bring it back, we have got William, who goes by Bill, and Faith, the mom and the dad, and then Kristen and Kip, their two children. Now, Kristen was about 5 years older than her baby brother Kip, and Kristen was known to be gifted. She just seemed to skate by in school. When she was in school, she seemingly didn't have to try very hard. She made very good grades. She was socially accepted by the other kids, and Kip at a young age was showing a little bit of different signs. When Kip was just 6 years old, his parents got the opportunity to spend a year in Spain, and when the family moved to Spain, Kip was put in a kindergarten class. Now, his sister Kristen was actually put in a third grade class, even though she was supposed to be in a fifth grade class, because of the third grade class was the only class that they had an English speaking teacher. But nevertheless, even though Kristen had kind of went back 2 grades, she was doing great. She was doing just fine with the adjustments. However, once Kip settled into his new class, this is when Kip's parents started noticing Kip was struggling with the curriculum. And not only that, he was also being bullied for being different. I actually heard in an interview somebody that knew this family, they said that they were talking to Kip one day about school, and Kip was basically saying like, yeah, it's great, except for, I don't like it when the kids, take my head and, they slam your head down in the water fountain. And the lady, the friend of the family, was like, well, that's not normal. What are you talking about? And she would later say that after she spoke with Kip, she realized that it was almost like Kip thought that this was like a normal thing that happens to kids, and the way that he adjusted to drinking water at the water fountain and having kids come up behind him and slamming his head down was to just not drink water, or to find other times when nobody was around to drink water. It's just like he adjusted to this bullying without even really realizing that that's what he was doing. And it was really sad to hear. Nevertheless, after the year away, the family returned back home to Springfield. The Kinkles had a beautiful, cabin almost style home nestled away on a nice piece of property surrounded by trees and lots of animals and birds and wildlife. And they picked this home on purpose because they believed in going outside and being in nature and being able to see the animals. And it was just really a beautiful home in an area that they got to live in. However, when they got back and got settled, when Kip went back to school, he started elementary school, and immediately the teachers began to reach out to Kip's parents. They said that he was not socially developed and he was immature and even had some physical underdevelopments. See, Kip did really good in math and science, but he struggled in reading and his social skills and some other areas. And you can only imagine, he has 2 teachers for parents, okay? And by this time, they had been teaching for decades. And now they're being contacted by the teacher who is saying that he's not doing well in school. So the school recommended that he repeat the first grade, and Kip's parents agreed, and they re-enrolled him. Now, it's very important to note that Kip was not falling behind for his lack of trying, and this hurts my heart so bad to hear, because they say that Kip would actually study for his spelling test for hours at nighttime, which to me doesn't seem normal, especially for a kid that young. But nevertheless, he would study so hard. His parents would try to help him. He would study in his spare time, and he just could not get that part of school. And at the same time, he was watching his older sister just ace everything. I mean, she was like the golden child. She would do everything right. She was very respectful to her parents. She had a lot of friends. She basically hardly never got in trouble. And it's like, no matter how hard Kip tried, he just could not get his schoolwork right. During that school year, Kip was finally diagnosed with dyslexia. And although this may not have been the answer that him and his family was looking for, at least it was some answer. And then the parents thought that, okay, now we can understand why he's struggling so much in this area. And so from there, Kip was put in an extensive special education class, and that started in the beginning of second grade. But Kip seemingly still struggled in other areas. He was comparing himself to others, and he was considered to be just kind of awkward and maybe like the strange kid.
Kristen's gonna show us some headstands. Handstands. Look at that. Can you believe that? Kip's doing a handstand. I think that Kip needs some more work. But he's eager. He's eager.
But even with all of that, his parents were very loving and supportive, and they kept their frustrations and concerns and stuff away from Kip. Again, remember what I said in the beginning of their parenting style. They weren't yellers, they weren't spankers, they were going to talk everything through. And the way that they disciplined the children was to let them know how disappointed they were in them. And Kristen would later say that this was like the worst punishment that the kids got. She actually said in an interview that if the parents told them they couldn't watch TV, or they took something away from them, or they grounded them, oh, that was fine. But when the parents sat them down and told them that they were disappointed in them, that really affected them. And this was a reoccurring event over time with Kip's parents and himself and his sister. However, the way that Kip internalized it was it started to become resentment towards his parents when they would sit down and have these long discussions with him and tell him that they were disappointed. He would become resentful towards his parents. Kip developed an interest in firearms and explosives at a young age. Now, Kip's father initially discouraged the interest in the firearms and the explosives. And you guys, I have to tell you guys a little bit more about these two parents, Faith and William. Kristen would later say in an interview that the kids were not even allowed to watch Bugs Bunny because there was violence in it. Okay, so this was a house that was all love, rose, sunshines. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to watch any kind of cartoon if, there's going to be some sort of violent scene in it. They didn't listen to any music that was seemingly aggressive. And so when Kip developed this interest in explosives and guns, the parents were like, oh, no. William, Kip's father, was actually starting to feel torn because even though Kip was showing these interests, he was thinking back to his childhood. He was born in 1938. He was given his first weapon by a family member. It was just kind of a thing. Everybody was responsible. They would go outside, hit targets, So he was trying to figure out a way if this could be okay. He would go to his different friends and ask them, and friends would say, yeah, whatever, I take my kid to target practice. And so William went to Faith and he spoke to her about it. Now, at first, she was obviously against it. Okay, she was like, no, we don't even let our kids watch Bugs Bunny. So William decided that he was going to sign him and Kip up for a gun safety course, and he would take him to that. Kip, unfortunately, still struggled in school socially. I mean, other kids would describe him as strange and psychotic. Kip enjoyed listening to heavy metal bands like Nine Inch Nails, Rage Against the Machine, and Marilyn Manson, which the other kids at school thought was weird, especially because Kip constantly talked about violence. He told the other kids at school that he wanted to join the army after graduation just so he could see what it would be like to end someone's life. And when asked about a recent trip that he and his family had taken to Disneyland, He told the people at school that he just wanted to punch Mickey Mouse in the face. And one time, Kip even gave a speech on bomb making, and during his speech in class, he set off stink bombs in the locker room. Kip's behavior began to snowball from here, and it seemed like Kip's parents were really trying everything. I mean, his dad had taken him to this gun safety course thinking like, okay, we can get him into the positive, because mind you guys, Kip had actually told his parents that when he finished school, he wanted to work in law enforcement, and he was not obsessed with these firearms for how they could hurt somebody. He was obsessed with how they functioned and what made them have so much power, and that he wanted to go into law enforcement. So he was telling his parents one thing, but he was going to school and being a totally different kid. And then he just started to get into trouble at this point. Even though Kip was getting into trouble and hanging out with what his parents would say would maybe be like the wrong crowd, they tried everything. They put Kip into football. One of the coaches at the school saw that he was running really fast, and he joined the football team. Although he wasn't very good at it, he didn't keep playing, but his parents tried football. And one person even said that they saw his mother standing in the rain with all of her books from working at school that day, just so she could watch her son play for like 3 minutes of the game, because they only had him in that long. They put him in t-ball. They put him in soccer. They tried every sport to get him into, and he just wasn't good at any of it. This is when Kip begged his parents to put him into karate. He was getting picked on in school. He was an outcast, and although William and Faith did not believe in anything violence related, they thought, okay, we will try it. And so they put him in karate. And this is something that he seemingly excelled in. This is what his sister said that he was good at. He was starting to get awards in it, and his parents seemed happy that he was in it. However, again, when he was not in the karate, when he was not with his dad going to these courses, behind the scenes with his friends, he was getting into trouble. As a matter of fact, he even got in trouble for shoplifting. And then, while on a snowboarding trip with friends, Kip got arrested for throwing rocks from a highway overpass at cars. Now, when Kip went to court, his representation and the prosecutor said that he was very remorseful, that the kids did not understand how bad that can hurt somebody by throwing a rock over an overpass. And yes, they did hit cars. They didn't hurt anybody, thank God, but the rocks going over the overpass, I mean, what it could have done. And because he was so remorseful, he got some community service and was able to put that behind him. But after this instance, Kip's parents were really starting to get scared. I mean, they were putting the whole picture together. The explosive talk, the obsession with firearms, as well as getting in trouble, and then now finally getting arrested. William even told one of his friends that he felt like he was running out of options for his son and didn't know what else to do. So they enrolled Kip in anger management classes, and they had him see a psychologist. While he was sitting with a psychologist, and the psychologist asked him about these firearms and these explosives and the obsession, this is when he said that he just felt like it was like blowing off steam, and that it was nothing, he didn't want to hurt anybody, but it was just, a way that he could visually release what he was feeling inside. What the psychologist didn't know, though, was that Kip had actually started to hear voices, audible voices. The psychologist diagnosed Kip with major depressive disorder and prescribed him Prozac. It seemed to work really well for Kip, and after 6 months went by, Kip seemed to have massively improved. Now, massively improved. I read an article where the sister Kristen described this time, and she remembered it vividly. She said that Kip was telling jokes, appropriate jokes. He was smiling more. He would join into the conversations of the family and actually have good input, and he seemed happy, and everything about him seemed so much better. Kristen also said that she remembered when her mother Faith called her that day and said, "Hey, the psychologist said that Kip was doing great. He no longer needs to take the Prozac, and as a matter of fact, he's doing so good he does not even need to go and see his therapist anymore." Because of this, Kip's parents took him off the Prozac and quit going to therapy. They thought all was well and that he was just going through a tough time. You know, teenagers, he didn't know how to fit in, he was struggling. All he needed was maybe this little bit of a tweak and adjustment, and everything was going to be okay now. What they did not know is that everything would definitely not be okay. And Kip had a secret that he was hiding from everyone. On May 20th of 1998, 15-year-old Kip was suspended from school pending an expulsion hearing from his high school for being in possession of a loaded, stolen handgun. A friend of Kip's had stolen it from the father of one of his friends and arranged to sell it to Kip the night before. Kip paid $110 for the .32 caliber loaded with a 9-round magazine, which he then placed in a paper bag and left in his locker. When the father discovered it was missing, he reported it to the police and gave the names of the students he believed might have stolen it. Kip's name was actually not even on that list. However, the school became aware of Kip's possible involvement and questioned him. When he was checked for weapons, he reportedly stated, "Look, I'm going to be square with you guys. It's in my locker." Kip was then suspended pending an expulsion hearing, and he and his friend were arrested. Kip was released from the police custody and driven home by his father. Now imagine the parents' shock at this point. When Kip's father picked him up and drove him home, he had a talk with him. He told him how disappointed he was in him and told him that, as a matter of fact, if he did not straighten up immediately, he was going to be sending him off to like one of those wilderness boot camps or a military boot camp. Like, he was going to have to straighten up, or he was going to have to go somewhere and get straightened up. However, Kip's father or mother would never have the chance to try anything else with him, because later that day at 3 p.m., Kip's father, William, was sitting at the table drinking a cup of coffee when Kip came in with a .22 loaded rifle from his bedroom and ammunition from his parents' bedroom. He then went to the kitchen and he shot his father in the back of the head and then drug his body into the other room and covered it with a sheet. When Kip's mother got home, he was waiting for her in the garage. He told his mother that he loved her, and then he shot her twice in the back of the head and then 3 times in the face, and then once in the heart. He then drug her body across the floor and covered it as well with a sheet. Throughout the next morning, Kip played loud opera music through the house's sound system, and when the police arrived later, they found opera music playing loudly with the CD player set on play continuously. They also found a note that Kip left behind on the coffee table in the living room that said, "I just got 2 felonies on my record. My parents can't take that. It will destroy them. The embarrassment would be too much for them, and they couldn't live with themselves." But as the note went on, Kip attempted to describe his mental state by saying, "My head just doesn't work right. The gosh dang voices inside of my head. I have to kill people. I don't know why, but I have no other choice." The next day, on May 21st, Kip drove his mother's Ford Explorer to the high school. He was wearing a trench coat to hide the 5 weapons that he was carrying. Kip was carrying over 1,100 rounds of ammunition. He parked on 61st Street, which was 2 blocks away from the school. He then jogged to the campus, entered the patio area, and fired 2 shots, fatally wounding 16-year-old Ben Walker and wounding another. He went to the cafeteria, walking across it, fired the remaining 48 rounds from his rifle, hitting 25 students and killing 17-year-old Mikhail Nicolason. Kip fired a total of 50 rounds, 37 of which struck students and ended the lives of 2. 300 students were at the school when this happened. When Kip's rifle ran out of ammunition, he then began to reload, and a wounded student named Jacob Riker tackled him. Several other students helped to tackle him and hold him as well. While they were holding him, Kip managed to wrangle out that Glock that he had on him, and he fired a round, and it actually hit the kid Jacob that originally tackled him. I mean, this kid was truly a hero and so brave and saved so many lives, although he would later actually get a lot of hate for that situation, which was bizarre. He got all these letters that was sent to him and people harassing him, and Anyways, he yelled at the students, just kill me, just kill me. And a total of 7 students were involved in like helping to hold him down. Jacob had a perforated lung, but he made a full recovery. He received the Boy Scouts of America Honor Medal with crossed palms for his heroism on the day of the attack. Now, once in custody and at the police station, this is when Kip was able to like get that knife that he had. Remember how he had 5 weapons when he went into the school? Loose, and he actually ended up attacking one of the cops, and he kept yelling, kill me, kill me. Well, the cops ended up pepper spraying him in order to get him to calm down. When he was later asked why he did that, he said that he was trying to get the cops to kill him, that he actually wanted them to shoot him and kill him because he wanted to do it to himself, but that he just couldn't make it happen. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call this a police interrogation. I would definitely call it an interview, and I have so many mixed emotions. I've listened to all of this. I'm going to play some parts of the interrogation and just listen to Kip.
Do you think that you were too young for a gun?
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with me. My head just doesn't work right.
Okay. Why doesn't it work right?
I don't know. I'll kick it.
All right. When you brought the gun to school yesterday, or when you purchased it yesterday, did you know that was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do?
I knew it was the wrong thing.
You knew it was the wrong thing to do?
Yeah.
Okay. But you didn't have any intent yesterday, or at least that's what you told me yesterday, of hurting anybody. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So, when you got home with your dad, is Dad angry with you?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what happens when you get home.
I had no other choice. I couldn't.
You were feeling really guilty?
Yeah.
Okay. Was your dad, did he hit you or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Was he yelling or out of control or?
Yes, I couldn't. I had no other choice. God, I had no other choice. He was saying I was.
He was saying all that stuff and kind of. He was saying a lot of negative stuff about you. Like what was he saying about you?
After Kip's confession, they ended up taking him back to the school and having like him walk through and explain everything. And if you guys see him, he has his head down. First of all, yes, what he did was absolutely terrible. We're going to get there. Okay, absolutely horrible. But he had no representation at this point. Nobody knew anything because both of his parents were dead because he did what he did to them. But they walked him through the school, and with his head hung low, he pointed and showed them what he did.
This 1998, the time is at 1:51 p.m. and next to me is Kinkle, K-I-N-K-E-L, and this is basically going to be a walkthrough on a video of an incident that occurred at Thurston High School at 333 North 58th Street, Springfield, Lane County, Oregon. Were there students in this hallway that you passed? Okay. Did you consider shooting any of them? I told one kid he should probably leave. Did you know that kid? You don't know why he said that? Okay. Why did you do that?
I had no other choice.
You had no other choice. Did any of these students make you upset or anything?
Kip was indicted on 58 felony charges, including 4 counts of murder, and Kip pled not guilty at first. He originally wanted to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but allegedly his attorney told him not to because of all of the violent things Kip had written in his journals over the years. And on September 24th of 1999, 3 days before the jury selection was supposed to begin, Kip pled guilty to the charges. At Kip's sentencing, the defense presented experts on mental health to show that he was mentally ill. Jeffrey Hicks, the only psychologist who had ever treated Kip before the shootings, said that he was in satisfactory mental health when he last saw Kip. And in November of 1999, Kip was sentenced to more than 111 years in prison without the possibility of parole. At his sentencing, Kip apologized to the court for the murder of his parents and the attack at the school. Now, it only became apparent after Kip's trial that he had actually been showing signs and would later be diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Kip had always tried to cover up and hide his symptoms because he didn't want to be labeled as, disabled or anything else. Now, mind you, bringing it all the way back to the beginning, when he was held back in first grade, when he couldn't keep up, the dyslexia. So even when he was younger, before the onset of the paranoid schizophrenia started to really show itself within him, he had already dealt with so much of things that had him separated from other kids. He was labeled the weird kid, the socially awkward kid. And so when he began to hear voices, he did not tell anybody. He did not want to tell his parents. And as a matter of fact, there was one story that he would later tell about the first time that he heard the voices tell him that he needed to go and get a firearm and kill people. He was getting off of the bus and he said that the voices were so loud and that he could hear mumbling in the background and they were just yelling at him that he ran home, went to his room, shut the door, put his face in the pillow and cried and cried and cried, and that he didn't tell anybody. Now, his parents had spoke to him over and over again, and he never told his parents about the voices. And they asked every question that they could ask and did what they thought they could to help him, but he never told them that aspect. Kip's doctors later said that Kip had told them that he heard voices in his head from the age of 12 and had hallucinations and paranoid delusions, including one that believing that the government had implanted a computer chip in his brain and that the Chinese were going to invade the West Coast. Kip said that he would hear 3 different voices. Voice A, who commanded Kip to commit these violent acts, and voice B, who repeated insulting and depressive statements to Kip. Then voice C, who constantly repeated what voice A and B said. Kip would later go on to say that he always felt like he was being punished by God and that these voices were basically just there to instigate and to torture him. After the attack, over 200 counselors volunteered and over $400,000 of aid money was given in the form of the Thurston Healing Fund. A scholarship was created for Thurston high school students in remembrance of the attack. And in 2003, a permanent memorial was created and dedicated to Thurston High School in memory of the event, the Thurston Memorial. I do think that it's important to note that Kristen, his sister, has stuck by his side this whole entire time. She doesn't believe that he is a bad person or that he meant to do this or any of that. She doesn't believe that. And a lot of people don't, especially after how remorseful he was immediately afterwards. When you think about him abruptly being removed from the medication and therapy, even though he was seemingly doing good. When you think about there was a lot of warning signs in his journals that obviously were missed, I guess. And if the fact that he was hiding the fact that he was hearing these voices, especially when you think about his childhood and everything that he had struggled with, and it being back in the 90s and there being less information and no Google, but she is stuck by him this whole time, and a lot of people think that he got an unfair sentence. He did try to appeal his case, however, the judge denied it. And in 2021, Kip did his first ever interview because he's still in prison. And mind you, he has been requested interviews a ton of times over the years, offered money, the whole shebang, and he is denied to give the interviews. And he said because he did not want to reopen those wounds for the family. He feels horrible about the people who lost their lives and then also all of the students that were injured. As a matter of fact, some of them spoke at his trial and his sentencing hearing, and they wrote letters and described horrendous, the things that they saw when he busted into the school and brought out his weapon. You know, there was a student who was talking about her lung collapsed and being, you know, put on a ventilator, and another student talking about feeling the blood gurgling in their lungs. I mean, things that you just don't think about. The way that they described it is just awful, and the trauma that they went through, and the trauma that all of the students went through that maybe weren't even injured. They were just there.
I feel intense anger, but no hatred towards Kipling Kinkle. I don't know the guy. I never will. I'm angry to see all the hate that runs through other people.
So he refused to do an interview all of this time until 2021. And this is where we learned what Kip has pretty much been up to all of these years. He said that he was grateful to have received proper treatment while he was in prison, and he talked about denying all those other interviews because he didn't want to hurt the victims and for them to be re-traumatized. And he said that he feels terrible for what he did, and he did not want to bring any more attention to it. And this I do believe to be honorable, and this is something that I speak about in my videos, and it just doesn't happen often, and it makes me wonder how many people are really sorry or really changed. But this is a man who got 111 years, sentenced basically to life in prison as a kid for his horrendous crimes. However, since in prison and since he has got his medication right, he actually leads and teaches a program for inmates that are going to get out so they don't come back. Like, he's actually trying to use his time in there for good, and he stays out of trouble, and he is like a model lifer, a model inmate. And again, he turned down all of these interviews. My heart hurts for all of the victims, and I can't lie, I feel bad for him too. I really do. A lot of people blame the parents. I read so much. I read where people were saying that the parents should have told him that they were disappointed in him. I think the schizophrenia, the fact that they missed that is the biggest thing. You know, obviously, they didn't know that he was hearing these voices. I put myself in his father's shoes, and in my eyes, they were trying everything. Did they get it right? No, they didn't. Are any of us getting it right? I don't know. You know, the parents, they were all love and sunshines. They didn't believe in spanking. Can we blame the therapist for telling the parents to take them off the medication? I don't know. Was that what they believed was okay back in the 90s? I mean, it's really hard to say. Can we blame him for not telling anybody that he was hearing voices? I mean, I don't know. Back in the 90s too, was paranoid schizophrenia like a thing that people talked about? Or did you just hear voices if you were a kid and you were terrified and you didn't know? And the last thing you want to do is disappoint your parents some more. So it's just a terrible situation where I can't say I would have done this differently or they should have done this or whatever. Maybe if he would have made it into the wilderness or the military boot camp, maybe he would have gotten the help that he needed. I don't know. It's devastating. It's sad. And I've told you guys this in other videos. Just because you have life in prison, that's actually not the end of your life. You can still do good. You can still do good from within the prison if you really want to. Or you can go in there and get involved in gangs and and do a bunch of crazy stuff and end up living the same life in there that you could out here in all the negative ways. But he chose a different path. So what do you guys think? Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Other than that, I love you guys. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Y'all have a great weekend. Get outside. Love you guys. Bye.